Back in 1995, Pepsi made a joke. A big, expensive, multi-million-dollar joke. They aired a commercial offering a real military-grade Harrier jet to anyone who would collect 7 million Pepsi points. But one student, John Leonard, decided to call their bluff. This is the insane true story of how he found a loophole, tried to raise $700,000, and took on a major corporation to claim his jet. So what happens when a joke in a commercial isn't treated like one? To understand how a soda company ended up in a legal battle over a fighter jet, you have to go back to the 1990s. This was the peak of cola wars, a brutal marketing battlefield between Coca-Cola and Pepsi. For decades, these two giants had been locked in a struggle for global beverage supremacy. Every commercial, every slogan, and every promotion was a strategic shot fired. In this era of extreme marketing, being memorable was everything. Companies were desperate to cut through the noise, and that led to some of the most iconic and aggressive ad campaigns in history. It wasn't about just selling soda, it was about achieving cultural dominance. In 1995, Pepsi launched one of its biggest campaign ever, Pepsi Stop. The concept was simple and widely popular. You drink Pepsi, you collect points from the labels, and you redeem those points for cool merchandise. It started with simple things, a t-shirt, a hat, a denim jacket. It was a loyalty program designed to hook an entire generation on their brand. But in Cola Wars, simple wasn't enough. Pepsi's marketing team wanted a commercial so over the top, so dashly confident that no one would ever forget it. And that's exactly what they did. The commercial itself was a masterpiece of the 90s. It opens on a stylish high school kid decked out in his Pepsi t-shirt, leather jacket and sunglasses. With each item on the screen, text shows how many points it cost. He is the king of the school, the embodiment of the Pepsi generation. He checks his watch, looks to the sky, and then it happens. The roar of a jet fills the air. The students stare in disbelief as the Harrier Jet, a real military aircraft, descends to the schoolyard, kicking up dust and leaves. The cockpit opens and the same cool kid gives a nod, holding a can of Pepsi, and the final text flashed on the screen. Harrier Fighter Jet with 7 million Pepsi points. The ad was a sensation. It was funny, epic, and perfect punchline. The marketing team at Pepsi considered it a playful joke, a piece of advertising so exaggerated that no one could possibly take it seriously. But in their quest to make a memorable ad, they made one fatal error. They forgot to include a disclaimer. There was no just kidding. There was just a jet and a price tag. Millions of people laughed, but in Seattle, a young business student named John Leonard wasn't laughing. He was doing the math. John Leonard was a 20-year-old college student. He was ambitious, driven, and had an eye for opportunity. When he saw the commercial, he didn't see a joke. He saw an offer, a loophole. His first thought wasn't, "That's hilarious. Is it that possible?" He went straight to the official Pepsi Stuff catalog and started reading the fine print. Deep within the rules, he found the key. The catalog stated that if you didn't have enough points, you could buy them for 10 cents each as long as you submitted at least 15 original points with your order. Suddenly, the impossible became a business calculation. Leonard grabbed a calculator. 7 million Pepsi points, each for 10 cents, came out to be $700,000. A state-of-the-art military aircraft valued roughly for $23 million was seemingly available for just $700,000. It was the deal of the lifetime. But the only problem was John Leonard didn't have $700,000. So he drafted a business plan and started pitching his unbelievable idea to the potential investors. He sold them on the sheer audacity of the plan. And after securing the backing of several people, including his friend Todd Hoffman, the money was raised. The plan was no longer a dream, it was real. With the capital secured, Leonard followed the rules. He collected his 15 Pepsi points, had his investors write a check for just over $700,000 to cover the Pepsi points plus the shipping charges. And in March 1996, he mailed the package to Pepsi Redemption Center. His cover letter was simple. He had enclosed his points, his check, and was ready to arrange the delivery of his Harrier Jet. The package landed on the desk of Pepsico office, and the reaction was predictably laughter. The marketing department thought it was a hilarious prank. They sent Leonard a letter back explaining the jet was a fanciful part of a humorous, entertaining ad. They even threw in some Pepsi coupons for free. But John Leonard wasn't joking. He had followed their rules, he had raised the money, he saw their ad as a unilateral offer. He had legally accepted it. His lawyer sent a blistering response to Pepsi, accusing them of breach of contract. Inside Pepsico headquarters, the laughter stopped. This has escalated to a funny customer service story to a full-blown legal crisis. They realized Leonard was serious. The fear was that if he could sue them for a jet, what was stopping thousands of others from doing the same? So Pepsi went on the offensive. In a classic corporate power move, the Pepsi filed a preemptive lawsuit against him on the 18th of July 1996. asking a federal judge to declare their commercial as not a real offer. Leonard, undeterred, responded by filing his own lawsuit for breach of contract and fraud. Meanwhile, Pepsi scrambled to contain the damage. The original commercial was updated. In the newer version, the price of the Harrier Jet was changed from 7 million to an impossible 700 million points. And most importantly, two legally crucial words were added. Just kidding. And the case was officially titled Leonard versus Pepsico Inc. and landed in the New York court of Judge Kimba Wood. The central question was simple. Can a joke in a TV commercial count as a legally binding contract? In August of 1999, Judge Wood delivered her ruling, granting a summary judgment in favor of PepsiCo company and dismissing Leonard's case. Her decision was on a clear application of legal idea, known as the objective reasonable person standard. First, she ruled that the ad was not a legitimate offer, as advertisements are generally seen as invitation to make an offer. She famously argued that no objective person could reasonably have concluded that the company actually offered consumers a Harrier jet. She pointed to the exaggerated adolescent fantasy of a teenager flying a military jet to the high school as obvious humor. The judge also made a practical point. A Harrier jet is a weapon of war. The Pentagon has even stated that jets wouldn't be sold to the civilians without being demilitarized. The court concluded that the sheer absurdity of the situation was proof enough that it was a joke. Since Pepsi had returned Leonard's check, the court found no fraud had occurred. John Leonard appealed to the Second Circuit Courts of Appeal, but in 2000 the higher court affirmed Judge Wood's ruling in a brief opinion. The case was over. John Leonard would not be getting his jet. So what's your take? Was the judge right that no reasonable person would have taken the ad seriously, or should Pepsi have been forced to honor the deal, even if it was a joke that got out of hand? And if you love legal stories like this, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next one. In the end, PepsiCo won the legal battle, but the Harrier Jet story became a legendary public relations disaster and a cautionary tale taught in business and law schools, and it forever changed how the companies approach advertisements. As for John Leonard, he may have lost the lawsuit, but he won the story. He became a folk hero. His case is now famous in law schools. He used to teach the fundamentals of contract law. After largely staying out of public eye for more than 2 decades, he re-emerged to tell his story in the 2022 Netflix documentary series Pepsi, Where is My Jet? He never got the jet, and investors' money was lost, but he forced a billion-dollar corporation into a panic, sparked a national conversation about what constitutes a promise. And it all started because one person saw a joke and dared to ask, what if they are serious?